As somebody that has owned the Kemper for the last 4 years, I have to say there are things that the Helix does substantially better than the Kemper. Now, to be fair, I will probably also make a video why I think the Kemper is better than the Helix, but I think both modelers are absolutely amazing and both have their pros and both have their weaknesses. My goal behind this video is really just to inform you on which option is best for you. My other goal behind this video is to get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So let's finish this year with another huge milestone. Please like, subscribe. Let's dive into point number 1. As somebody that regularly has to carry their gear 2 to 3 times a week between worship practice and other gigs, I think it's super important to have something that's easy to haul around. On a normal Sunday morning, I'm typically carrying either my son, my Kemper Helix, my guitar, and a diaper bag. And so being able to have something that's portable is super important to me. Now, with all that said, it is way easier to be able to just throw the Helix in the backpack, throw it over my shoulders, and walk into a gig. Of course, Kemper came out with the Stage, which kind of rivals with the Helix in that portability factor. However, I still think that the Helix delivers a more convenient, kind of all-in-one solution, and the bag quality of the Helix is absolutely top-notch and significantly better than the Kemper backpack. Something I immediately noticed about my Helix was just how fun, dynamic, and intuitive the user interface is. The signal chain is very clearly mapped out, and it's easy to go in and adjust an individual parameter within an effect or an amp with a user interface that's really smooth and enjoyable. The startup time on the Helix is significantly faster than my Kemper, and it's nice to be able to go in and toggle between 2 different views for live performances. The Kemper gives absolutely amazing tones, but it's definitely showing its age in terms of its interface and some of the latency issues with the unit. Now, before we move on to point number 3, be sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know why you're looking to purchase the Helix. Alright, so let's talk about effects. This is something that immediately stood out to me, and Line 6 has a long-standing history of delivering absolutely incredible effects to its consumers. And although the Kemper has come a really long way in terms of their effects, I still think they lack some of that immersiveness and that depth that the Helix is able to deliver on. Now, this is also coming from somebody that has used the Kemper as my all-in-one solution for the last 4 years. So I've not used any other outgoing effects or any other pedals. I've used the Kemper for all of my effects, and I think it's fantastic, but I think it's missing that extra 15% or so just to take it to the next level. Now, as somebody that plays a lot of praise and worship, which is known for having way too much reverb and delay on your signal chain, I still think the Helix is quite a bit better when it comes to their effects. Now, this next one is a no contest in my opinion. Of course, Kemper came out with their desktop editor a few years ago, but I still feel like it's a little clunky, and oftentimes when you go in and you make adjustments, you have to redo it, you have to resave several times before it officially sticks. Now, the HX Edit app, however, is absolutely amazing. It's not the prettiest app in the world, but it just works. Plug in your Helix and you're able to just go in, edit easily, make adjustments, copy and paste rigs. You can also go in and add IRs, and it will automatically match it to the appropriate patch as well. If you're somebody that likes to go in and make a lot of adjustments from your desktop, I strongly recommend the HX Edit app rather than having to bend down and adjust the individual parameters on your Helix. And one other thing that I think Line 6 has done incredibly well is their ability to differentiate their customer demographic. Not everybody can go in and afford a $1,600 Helix, and so they've created the LT, they've created the Stomp and the XL, they've created the Podgo, and they have a ton of different options for everybody across a different price point without compromising on their core value prop, which is delivering a seamless and fun interface while still delivering an amazing tone. Unfortunately, I think partially because of Kemper's company size, they're a lot slower to release new products to the market. And I think it'd be absolutely amazing if they created a more compact IR solution for the Kemper, some sort of pedal-based platform to make it more all-encompassing for users, kind of like the HX Stomp. Now, if you haven't picked up on it already, I absolutely love that the Helix has a built-in expression and volume pedal in their units. And although I am really tempted to buy a Kemper Stage for the portability factor, I am disappointed that Kemper strayed away from creating an all-in-one solution like the Helix offers. I think I understand why Kemper chose to go this route, but in my opinion, taking away one extra variable for somebody to forget when they're running to a gig, or just creating a more seamless all-in-one solution for your players is a much better value prop. And it can be assigned to whatever you want it to be. So it can be a boost, an expression pedal, pitch or shift, wah. The list goes on, but it's super high quality, the sweep feels really nice, and I'm just a really big fan. I think another area where the Kemper is really starting to show its age is in its overall DSP. I think it's super limiting to be able to only have one amp in your signal chain and only assign 4 effects either before or after your amp. And with recent advancement in technology, I think there's a lot better solutions out there. For instance, with the Helix, if you want to run 2 amps side by side, you can. If you want to have multiple stereo rigs, you can. And where I see this being super valuable for myself is if I wanted to have, let's say, a Fender amp at 30% volume and a Vox amp at 70% volume running side by side, I can. And that would give me that Fender beautiful clean, but then the overdriven breakup of a Vox amp, which is more in line with what I would want. Snapshots are incredible, and if you're not already using that feature, I would strongly recommend it, especially if you're playing live. Snapshots allow you to go in and quickly and easily swap your entire preset of all of your effects to a different group of effects and keeping and maintaining all of that spillover as well. The Kemper is super limited in this area and will only carry its spillover over if it's in the delay or the reverb slot. Whereas with the Helix, I can have a massive swell tone and switch to a lead line and not miss any of that delay or that reverb as I switch between effects. Helix also allows you to go in and have 8 snapshots for each individual patch, whereas the Kemper only allows 5 different presets for one performance. Having a built-in audio interface matters a lot to me. I do think it's really nice not having to go in and buy a separate audio interface and have a lot of extra cables when you're recording. I also think it's just way more convenient just to plug a USB into my Helix and my computer to be able to record than having to go in, take my USB, plug it into my interface, take 2 XLRs, route it to my Kemper, and that's how I can record. It's a lot smoother, and quite frankly, when you see how many lights and everything else I have in here when I'm creating these videos, less clutter is a lot better for me. Also, creating a unit with the interface built in allows for somebody that wants to go in and start to record or start to create videos the ability to do so without having to purchase additional gear. Since the Helix has an algorithm that predicts how it thinks an amp will respond in a certain situation, I think that the Helix responds significantly better to drive pedals pushing the front of the amp. Now that does not mean that I think the Helix sounds better than the Kemper, but rather I think the Kemper starts to stray away from its core sound as you start to modify the original profile. I think the Helix allows you to more accurately dial in the amp, and you don't have to worry about having a good profile to start out. If you have an amp and you want to make adjustments, you more easily can with the Helix to find that dream tone. If you go into the Kemper and you start to heavily adjust a profile's EQ or the overall gain, I think you get some weird digital artifacts, and I think you just have a lot more flexibility with the Helix in this area. However, I do think it's worth pointing out that the Helix and Kemper, I think, sound a lot better if you gain up the amp itself rather than go in and have a really clean amp and add a ton of effects to it. I feel like it breaks up much more naturally, the response is there, and in my opinion, the tone is there as well. Now that I've said all of that, I'm going to contradict myself and check out this video on why you should buy the Kemper Profiler.